Hi, my name is Rachelle Smith, entrepreneur, professional speaker, and author. Last time, I highlighted the days of my workouts, and I am so excited to move forth, continuing this series of leadership lessons, leadership lessons, leadership lessons, leadership lessons. I am very passionate about leadership. I love leadership. Love, love, love leadership. Written a book on leadership, speak, write everything, train on leadership. And I just think that's something where we all as leaders have to continue to learn, grow, and develop and evolve. Because if there's one thing that is undoubtedly true, and that is leadership is not easy. I'm sure the leaders all smiled. And again, you don't have to have a formal leadership title in terms of director, manager, VP, CEO, whatever. It just does not require a title. If you're a parent, if you're a person of influence, influence is one of the huge, huge, huge components of leadership. Because again, there may be someone managing a team, but the team members may not respect the manager. But there may be one or two people on that team that everyone respects. And so when that person or those two or three people speak, others listen. And so team members can often be more influential than a manager. And so that's so often the case. And even in my own gym, one thing I often say is the real leader, the real leader in that gym, in my opinion, from a leadership perspective, is the cleaning lady, Sue, the one I always reference as a best practice. And so leadership is not about titles. So don't listen to this and think, well, this doesn't apply to me because I'm not managing a team. I'm not a vice president. I'm not a CEO of a small business or even a Fortune 500 company. It does not matter. It does not matter. All right. Leadership is something all of us are involved in. Truly. I mean, if we really think about it, in unfortunate, people use their leadership skills and abilities in fortunate and unfortunate ways. Okay. You got gangs, you got gang leaders who are recruiting people to their gangs. Okay. You got cults, these cults that come around, and Jim Jones and these type of people that are influencing, using negative influence on individuals and causing them, again, in the Jim Jones Jamestown case, to take their own lives. And so leadership is something that I think we all need to take very seriously and always strive to learn, grow, and develop as leaders. Because like I said, leadership is something, yes, individuals may be born with innate leadership abilities, and again, and those abilities and skills are harnessed as they grow up and grow older, but that's something we can all continue to learn, grow, and develop as leaders. There's books, there's workshops, there's downloads, there's just so much workshops, seminars, books, everything. There's certainly from a leadership perspective, there's no shortage of information and ways to learn, grow, and improve, because that's certainly something I do as well. And you all know I spend a lot of time undercover. And I know that one way, and one of the just unexpected blessings and being undercover from a leadership perspective, it has really, really enhanced my sense of objectivity. Okay, because leadership requires objectivity. Again, being able to objectively look at situations and being able to, again, looking at this from this point of view and from that point of view, and also the skill that's inherent in that is empathy, particularly when you're dealing with individuals, when you can look at situations and say, well, I understand that perspective, or I understand where that person's coming from, because that skill and that gift of empathy allows you to put yourself in someone else's shoes and understand things from their perspective, but also to make decisions objectively, and also but empathetically, and saying, well, this may be going on and this may be happening. What could be going on? Let me put myself in the other person's shoes. Let me chat with this person and learn more and things like that. And so that's something from an objectivity standpoint, because I love people. And from a leadership perspective, yes, that's great to love people, but it also requires my ability to be objective. Like, I could be dealing with the nicest person, the kindest, most gentle person in the world, but they could not be doing their job, And so that, of course, part of my role in being there in the first place, again, is to provide an outside objective opinion of situations and to make assessments and things like that, and observational recommendations. And so objectivity is key. Without objectivity, it would just be more of the same for these businesses, for these franchises, for these sometimes corporate locations. whatever the case may be. And so that's why I've got to be objective. I've got to be objective, because if I'm not objective, then I make excuses for people. And again, part of the reason why folks like me are undercover, because again, you're dealing with, more often than not, businesses, like I said, franchises, corporate locations that have very high standards, and they want to maintain those standards. They want to continue those standards. And so they need objective feedback to say, okay, how are we really doing? And I think that's something in leadership. It's easy to surround yourself with people who won't disagree with you, will always tell you what you want to hear, but it's important to have objective outside opinions to say, well, this is how I think we're doing, but I want to get some outside perspective to see exactly how we're doing. And there's actually franchise owners that will do that themselves and want to have that feedback, but also more often than not, corporate cares a great deal about, again, whether it's their corporate locations or their franchises. And I will just tell you, obviously I can't reveal names and stuff like that of the folks that I go undercover for, but I will tell you the top folks, the top companies, top franchises, these are the people that are constantly soliciting this type of feedback. And so that'll tell you a lot right there, regardless of industry, regardless of franchise location, regardless, the top folks, there's a reason why folks are at the top, businesses are at the top, franchises are at the top, because they thrive on this objective feedback and want to know on a continuous basis, many of them on a relentless basis, how are we doing? What can we improve upon? And I think that is something that is so wonderful. But again, for being able to be able to do that, for me to come in and help others achieve their goals, that requires objectivity. And like I told you, many cases it's hard. In some cases it's easier, but many cases it's hard, because like I said, I love people, and you just want to see people do well, but it's also facing the reality and dealing with the truth, in which I'll talk about in the next episode, the value of truth, the value of candor, the value of honesty. One of my wonderful, wonderful, wonderful leadership mentors, I read many of his books, and coming out of Northwestern, I was always talking about Jack Welch. But he often states, though, that truth, honesty, and frankness in an organization is the key to turning the tide. And we know he turned the tide at General Electric many years ago and helped it transform and become the powerhouse that it is today. It's so impressive. But again, you've got to be honest. I've got to be honest. I got to tell the truth about people, even when that truth is ugly. I got to tell the truth about franchises, even when that truth is ugly. All right, but I've got to be objective in order to be able to do that. And so leadership requires objectivity and looking at different sides and different scenarios and different, like I said, points of view, as I mentioned earlier, whether you're managing a team, whether you're a vice president of a division, whether you're running a company, just that objectivity, particularly when there's issues, when there's problems, when there's conflict, which there will always be. As long as there's human beings interacting in any situation, there's going to be issues that come up and things like that arise. And so I think from a leadership perspective, for us to take a step back and evaluate different perspectives and things like that, that's how, again, wonderful, genuine solutions, enduring solutions, effective solutions come to be, but also help to bridge the gap and to help others navigate that situation, effectively and in a positive manner. And even as I mentioned to you all here, when I was, the staff stalker at my gym, and I highlighted on the days of my workouts, and again, you got to go back and look at days of my workouts, a couple of them, 3 and 4. For me, I can't go back and rehash this. This is a leadership lessons episode, but there's certainly leadership lessons in this, and that's why I bring this up now. Okay, that's a situation. Again, I call him the staff stalker, and I wrote a letter, to the CEO of Powerhouse Gyms International, with that complaint, which I should never have to do on a gym employee. In 23 years, it's just unacceptable. But okay, that's a situation where, okay, we got to look at it from 3 different perspectives. Okay, the owner, I understand what he's trying to do. I understand in this situation, but this particular employee is not a security guard, is not a bodyguard, does not have those skills, and as a result is doing a mediocre job in that role. I'm sure this particular individual, he's fantastic in whatever his actual role is. And so that's a situation where, again, we all have blind spots, particularly in leadership. We have blind spots. If you don't have, in this case, if they had an HR manager, HR director, would tell them, do not do this. You're creating liabilities. You don't do this. Do not put an employee in this situation. That's not their actual role or job title. Okay, so I can understand that role, and from the employee's perspective, I understand his perspective. Everybody, unless you've been an entrepreneur your whole life or a small business owner, if you've ever worked for anyone else, you know what that's like. You know what that's like, to get some direction and whatever. And, he's extremely insecure in that role and just does a whack job because that's not his job. Okay, but didn't want a very loyal employee, clearly didn't want to disappoint his boss. So like I said, every working person throughout the course of their career, at least one time or many times, is going to face that type of scenario. Okay, but then you've got my perspective, where again, I'm just going in, I just want to work out, I want to be left alone, I'm not trying to be followed by people, a member of the gym or an employee of the gym, which is just doubly ridiculous. And so that was my perspective, but I had to look at all three perspectives and say, well, okay, I understand. Okay, I understand. Okay, I understand. Okay, but the problem is, from my perspective, okay, my workout's getting jacked up by this. All right, this is calling issues, and this is not a good situation because a couple of things are going to happen. I'm going to end up calling the police and filing a complaint on this employee, which just is unacceptable. They even thought of that. Or the first time the owner hears about this is going to be through my attorney. And I did not want, and that's why I wrote the letter. Please, people, this is easy. This should not be happening. And so I respect the owner, respect everything he's done for the industry. Has done a lot as an icon. So I didn't want to, again, don't want to surprise him, so that's why when I sent that email, please make sure your dad gets this. Please make sure he gets this. Why? Because he owns the gym. Owners always care most for a facility or gym, franchise, anything else than anyone else. And so again, I respect him enough to say, please, folks, let him know what's going on. Let him know how I feel about this, because I don't want to surprise him with a phone call from my attorney saying, okay, this is what's been going on, and how are we gonna alleviate this situation? All right. And so, folks, again, but that's a situation where objectivity, I had to look at it from different perspectives. All right. Look at things from different, be level-headed, don't let emotions, because I could have, the first time he did it, the second time, staff stalker, I could have called the police right then. But I said, you know what? Let me evaluate this. Let me look at this from different perspectives. Let me handle this with a level head. And this is something we should all do, because we all handle sticky situations. All right. One time, actually, in a couple more episodes, I'm going to talk about the most challenging undercover situation that I've dealt with. All right. And it's actually a fitness situation where I was undercover at a gym. And it was absolutely, like I said, the most challenging from many different perspectives, because I had to be objective. I mean, it was a very, 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 very challenging situation. Very challenging situation where, again, corporates involved, and a franchise which just having a lot of problems. I can't give too much, but I'll talk about that in a couple more episodes. But I want to talk more about my reaction to it, which I'm certainly free to do from a confidentiality perspective. I can respect the confidentiality, but talk about my reactions on a general scale. But that was a very challenging situation, because again, I'm dealing with just, different perspectives, but I've got to be objective. I was there to be objective. I was there actually as an advocate for the members who had complained, who had made me complain, like you wouldn't believe. And when I got there, I was just in shock, wondering, okay, so is John Quinones about to come in here and tell me I'm about to be on an episode here? It was that bad. And so, but again, handled it successfully, handled it with a level head, and I'll talk about that more in a couple more episodes. But folks, objectivity is key. Objectivity is key to leadership. Leadership's not easy. You're going to have sticky situations. You're going to have nice people. You're going to have people, put in bad situations. But do not let that deter you from being a leader, from being assertive, from stepping up, from asserting your rights in certain situations. Also from holding true and fast to policies and procedures. All right, don't break the law. I mean, I could give you a million examples of, again, just all these different Wells Fargo. Think about, again, they're facing all of the financial improprieties that they did, and what is that? Okay, there was this corporate culture of pressure, of results, and I've worked in sales, and I know what that's like. But in their particular situation, why? They had leaders and they had managers and people in these roles putting all their pressure on these salespeople. And what were they doing? Creating fake accounts, stealing their current customers' IDs to create these dummy accounts to show that they were growing far more than they were actually growing. But what is that? Employees put in bad situations. And so therefore that's when you have whistleblowers come out. That's exactly what happened in the Wells Fargo case. Again, and I know if an HR person, HR director, VP of HR would have been aware of that, they would have called it, called the company on it, called the CEO on it. This is what's going on. Why? Because of HR person's perspective and role is to ultimately, people want to say, yeah, they can be employee advocates, and yes, that's true, and yes, there are many that do that, but ultimately their role is to protect the company. All right, the CEO would have been alerted, or that HR person would have said, I'm out of here. I don't want to be a part of all of this nonsense when it all hits the fan, which it ultimately did. And so, folks, I can look forward to continuing this conversation on leadership. Leadership is something that is so important. So continue to learn, grow, and develop, and to be the best leader that you can be, and truly unleash and maximize your potential. Thank you so much for your time. Make it a wonderful day.